Test, test. All right. You guys hear me okay? Yeah. That good? And can you see the screen? Okay, cool. Well, God is awesome, right? Wow, that was like very little response. I said, God is awesome, right?
Oh, yeah!
Right. So good. Lord, we just thank you for how good you are. And God, we thank you for your love here today for every one of these students. Lord, the love, I love them, but God, you love them way more than I could. And Lord, I thank you for that love that you give to us for one another, that it's just not there in the natural. So Father, I pray as we get into your word today, as we encounter you today, that your love would permeate this place. Lord, that there would be that sense that we can draw near. Lord, that we would be the salt, we would be the light that you've called us to be, Lord, that you have destined us to be, Father. And I pray everyone here, God, can get a hold of that, Lord. You would give them vision, God. You would speak to them. Lord, you would open up hearts and minds to receive everything you want to speak in Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen. All right, guys, so we're going through the Beatitudes, and Mr. Dean shared last week, which was really good. I think I remember a few things he said. But I know one of the things he said that I thought was really cool was he used a Latin word. You guys remember what he talked about? He said, carpe what? Who said that? Oh, okay. Well, you can say it. Okay, carpe eternam. I'm glad you said it because I couldn't remember exactly how the last part of it went. But who can tell me what does it mean? So carpe diem means seize the day. What does carpe eternam mean? Seize eternity. And I told Mr. Dean, I'm like, we should make a t-shirt out of that.
Yeah, I would buy that t-shirt.
Seriously. I think I'm gonna. Because, guys, we are so surrounded, everything around you, all the media, the places you go, the mall, everything is telling you to seize the day. Nothing's telling you to think about eternity. And I know that because I talk to people all the time on the streets. They don't ever think about eternity. I ask people a simple question, I'm like, where will you be in 1 billion years? And they look at me like with their eyes crossed, like, who thinks about that? But I like what Jonathan Edwards said. He says, Lord, stamp eternity on my eyelids. Stamp eternity on my eyelids. Because we need to be reminded of why we're here, why we exist. If we know Jesus, it's totally different than everybody else that's out there. So, talking about salt and light, and kind of a funny story. My wife and I, we celebrated our 25th anniversary a couple weeks ago. So yeah. She actually put up with me for that long, man. So, hey, glory to God. God's good. So we're at Woodfield Mall. How many of you guys like going to the mall? Okay, Woodfield Mall's pretty cool. Like if you want to go shopping, there's every store you can imagine. And I walked into I think it was maybe Zoomies, that ring a bell? Like a weird hipster store? Okay, Zoomies, right? So I walked in there, and I started talking to a guy, and I told him, hey, we're celebrating our 25th, and he's like, oh man, that's great. And I said, yeah, God is good. And then he said, all the time. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, hey bro, you following Jesus? And he's like, yeah, and he kind of backed away a little bit. And I began to share with him about God and what I believe God wanted him to know. And then he looks at me, it's funny, but he looks at me and he's like, are you an angel or something? No, he was serious. He's like, are you an angel? And I'm like, well, yeah, my wife would say I am. But oh, she would probably say I'm a fallen angel. But I kind of laughed and I said, no. But as I thought about it later, and I got to pray with this guy at the store, and it was really cool and everything. But as I thought about it later, I'm like, oh my gosh. We live in a world where if I randomly talk to a stranger about Jesus, they must think I'm not even human. Right? I mean, it's so weird because of our culture, and yet we're called to be salt and light. I think somewhere we're failing in that command that Jesus has given us to be salt and to be light. Because it shouldn't be that weird to talk about the Lord and to share what he's doing in your life. And yet it's always seems to be a bit awkward. And the other thing I've noticed when I talk to people, that when you bring up church or religion or God, a lot of times they give you this look like, You know what it is you talk to them, you know what they've seen? They haven't seen salt and light. They've seen church. They've seen people who said they're Christians, but don't really act like it. So a lot of times when you talk to someone, the first thing they think of, hypocrisy. They don't think of Jesus. They don't think of the light of God. They don't think of the salt of the earth. They think, yeah, right. And guys, I believe that needs to change. And I believe it can change right here, right now, with you. Because you guys are in a school, and you have the opportunity from your teachers and from the staff that runs the school, if you desire it, if it's in your heart to know God and to really follow him, you got all the tools right here. You don't have to be like so many people that are out there that they're not being salt and they're not being light. How many of you believe me? Okay, I've got 3 people, 4 or 5. Okay, we got a few more. Okay, we can do that if we allow God to work in us and allow Jesus to come through us so we can shine, so we can be that salt and be that light. All right, so what we're looking at today, up here in Matthew 5, we're going to be 13 actually through 15, because I stole this graphic online. So it didn't cover all those verses, but I like that something like this works. But it's interesting when you read the verses just before that. You guys got your Bibles here? Okay, I've got 2. Okay, very good, Julia. Faithful. All right, so a couple people with their Bibles. If we look at the verses before that, it says this. Verse 10, here, and who's talking here? Who can tell me? Matthew chapter 5, the verses we're reading there, it's the Sermon on the Mount. Who is talking there? It's who? It's, say it loud. It's who? Jesus, right? And here's what he says in verse 10. He says, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now, blessed means like happy, satisfied, fulfilled. And he says, people who do that are persecuted, made fun of, you can be happy. Because why? Heaven is yours. How many of you have ever been made fun of because you said something about Jesus? How many of you felt like awkward? Maybe even a little embarrassed, let's be honest. Okay? How many of you kind of wanted to hide the light? Kind of didn't want to be salt, right? Okay, we've all been there. You know, I talk to people in the streets all the time about Jesus. All the time. But you know what? That is not me. Me standing up here talking to you guys, this ain't me. I'd rather be at home by myself. Okay, I can be in a cave and be happy, all right? I'm not like someone who loves to get in front of people, nor talk to strangers, right? It's awkward. Go up to someone in the store and say, excuse me, can I talk to you about Jesus? It's always awkward. All right? But here's the thing. When we allow our lives to be surrendered to Jesus and him flow through us, all of a sudden, you find yourself having this heart of God in the eyes of Jesus, who it says would seek to save the lost. And you have compassion on people, and you'll step out of yourself, because what did Jesus say? He said, take up your cross, deny yourself, and follow him. But we got to take that step. Can we trust God that if we take a step, he's going to be there? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is God going to back you when you're walking in obedience to him? Yes, absolutely. Verse 11 says, blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you on whose account? Jesus' account, not about you. He says, rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. You know, carpe eternum, Lord, stamp eternity on my eyes. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So when that all goes down, really what Jesus is saying, he's like, you want to be happy? How many of you want to be happy? Okay, I got a few people that really want to be sad here. People that like depression. Now, sometimes that's true, unfortunately. But if you really want to be happy, right? Jesus says it's like this. Be persecuted for him. Be made fun of for him. Suffer for him. You'll be happy. How weird is that? How backwards is that? We don't want to do that. And maybe that's why a lot of Christians really don't look so happy. I mean, where's the passion? Why are people going to want to be following Jesus if they see in you and it's just like, there's no flavor in that salt, maybe, right? So maybe it's because we're not doing what those Beatitudes that Mr. Dean covered last week. If we're doing all those things, sometimes we think, hey, if I'm peaceful and I'm merciful and everything that we listen to the Beatitudes, well, everybody's just going to love me. No. They're not. But that's okay because you're pleasing the audience of one. And here's the thing, man. I pray if you guys don't get anything out of this message today, the one thing you could get is that you would only care what God thinks. You quit caring what the person next to you thinks, or your best friend, or anybody else above God. If you would fear God, you will fear nothing else. And that's hard, man. I know it's hard. I've been where you're at. But I also know it's possible. Why? Because Jesus lives in you. Is Jesus afraid of anybody? No. And what does Jesus say? Or what does the word say in Romans? If God is for you, who can be against you? Anybody? Nobody, right? So we don't need to fear. We need to conquer the fear of people so we can live. And if we fear God enough, you ain't going to be afraid of anybody. You guys follow that? And is this making any sense at all? Is that like clicking? All right. So, if we could pull that next slide up. James 1:22 says this. He says, but be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. This is the theme for these next, what do we say, next semester? Okay, being a doer of the word, James 1:22. One of my favorite verses in the Bible, one of my favorite books in the Bible. I memorized it in Bible college, the entire book of James. It was not easy. It took me like 6 months to do it. If you asked me to do it again, I probably couldn't. But it was a time in my life where it was a little bit easier than it is now. Maybe because like you get older, remember, it doesn't stay. I don't know. But this is huge. This is huge. Because if we're not doing what God says and we're only listening, and you could like agree with me, like, yeah, what you're saying is true. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I know that. But you don't do it? Answer me, are you going to experience the blessings that come with doing it? No. So, we're to be doers, and that's what Jesus is saying, even in the Beatitudes. It's the people that are doing these things. They're acting like this. They're living like it. Because if you're not, what does it tell us in James? What are you doing? You're what? What does that say? Deceiving. Deceiving. Raise your hand if you want to be deceived. Okay, nobody put their hand up. That's very good. But how many people are deceived? How many of you know people who are deceived? Lots of people, right? So we need to be a doer of the word. And here's how James explains it if you read on in chapter 1 there. He says in verse 23, for if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he's like a man who looks intently at his natural face in the mirror. So you go to the mirror, right? Now girls, you never do this, but girls, you never get up like way early on a school morning to get ready for school, right? No, never. Okay. But you're looking in a mirror, and if you were to look in that mirror, I mean, for most guys, it's like roll out of bed, You know, okay, cool. But if you're looking in the mirror and you see that like makeup is smudged all over, and you're like, oh, okay, got it. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna be like, well, that's cool? Well, look at what it says in verse 24. It says, for he looks at himself and goes away and forgets what he looks like. So if I look in a mirror and I'm like, oh wow, that's messed up. Like let's say you were crying. My wife knows this. Or I don't know when it happens, but it tends to get what, that black, yeah, crying or tired or whatever, and it's kind of like smeared. Now if she looks in the mirror, is she gonna leave that? She's gonna change it. Right? Well, hopefully. Right? So you're gonna change that. But it's the same thing, guys. When you hear the word of God, and I don't care if it's in your devotions, if it's in your classes, if you're in a chapel service, you hear the word of God, and you're convicted, and you know, man, I gotta change. I'm not living what it's saying. Are you gonna walk away? Because it's just as foolish if you had stuff all over your face and just walk away and ignore it. It's the same thing. And you're self-deceived. Father, I pray for everyone here to not be deceived. I pray you open every eye, every heart to not be deceived, to know where they're at today. You're awakening in us, Jesus. Okay, so that's our theme, and really everything we're going to be sharing, guys, and just in life in general, when you take the word, do it. Because if you're not doing it, it's really boring. Seriously. It really is. And you live it, and there's nothing better. There's nothing better than living out the Word of God. It'll rock your world, it'll change your life every single day. Does anybody believe me? Okay? All right, I got some hands, cool. Okay, next verse. Next slide. We're finally getting to our passage. Slowly but surely. All right, so, yes. Matthew 5:13. Again, who's speaking here? It's who? Jesus. Okay. And he says, you are the salt of the earth. I'm going to stop right there. Who is the salt of the earth?
We are.
Did it say Jesus? Did it say God? Who's the salt of the earth?
We are.
You are. Now, you ain't nothing without Jesus, right? Don't miss my point. Here's the thing, guys. You're the salt of the earth. You know what? You're the only salt of the earth. Think about that. You're the only salt of the earth. Outside of Jesus Christ in someone, the whole world out there, if they don't have Jesus, there's no other salt, guys. You're God's plan. God wants every one of us to be the salt of the earth. And he says the same thing about the light of the world. But we're supposed to be that light. You are. It's our responsibility. Listen to what he says. He says, you're the salt of the earth. So who's the salt? You are. He says, but if the salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. Wow. Now you tell me, how in the world does salt not become salty? Now my daughter likes to say salty, but it means something totally different. You look so cute back there too. Love to embarrass her. Okay, so how does salt not be salty? How is that possible? Yes, in the back.
Impurities.
Thank you. Somebody's been reading the Bible. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Praise God. Okay. Very true, exactly what he's saying. Salt. I had this in my pocket. I don't normally carry a salt shaker in my pocket, but I have it with me today. Okay. Salt. In its purest form, without impurities. Now, back in the ancient world, when they were harvest salt at times, it would be filled with other impurities, other minerals, like gypsum was one of them. So it was still salt, but you know what? When you put it on your food, it was nasty. Because it got contaminated. It had other things involved with it. It was no longer just salt. Guys, it's the same way. Listen to what he says here. If it loses its saltiness, it's no good anymore. So let me ask you today, how salty are you? I know that's like, means something else at times, but how salty are you? If you are not salty, there's a reason. It's because you've allowed everything else to be more than the salt that is in you. How many of you know we can be guilty of that? I'll admit it right away. Right? But here's the thing, if I'm not salty, he says, what is it good for? Trampled under your feet, man. I'll clean this up after. But it's not good for anything. Now here's another thing I thought of too. Sometimes, guys, we look like this salt shaker. No, seriously, we do. Why? Because it's like all these little Christians in here, right? Okay? We're all in here together. We're not out. It says we're the salt of the what? Earth. So we need to get out of the salt shaker. We need to get out of the salt shaker and go where there is salt and need, where people need to hear of Jesus Christ and who he is. You guys believe that? Believe we need to get out of the salt shaker?
Yeah.
Will God give us the boldness to do it? If we trust him?
Yeah.
I guarantee it. How many of you guys like salt? How many of you like it too much? How many of you guys are guilty? All you salt fanatics. How many of you are guilty when you get food like pizza and you put salt on it before you even taste it? All right, I got a few honest people here. Let me ask you this though, what is salt? What does salt do? Who can tell me? What does it do? It makes it taste better. So salt brings what? I think there's three things. So it brings what? And maybe there's more. But it brings flavor, right? What else does it do? You in the front row, little girl. You can eat it because it brings flavor. Okay. What else does salt do?
Brings happiness.
Brings happiness. Thank you. Brings happiness, but there's something, what's Okay, here's an illustration for you. If I go to the movie theater and I'm eating a whole lot of popcorn, a lot of salt on that popcorn, right? What's going to happen? I'm going to be thirsty. Thank you. Is that Ashley? Yes. Yes, okay. So it's going to make me thirsty. So salt brings flavor. It makes you thirsty. But there's one other really important thing it does. What's that? Yeah, you do that too. Yes. You have too much of it, yes. The other thing it does is salt preserves, especially in the ancient world. It's a preservative. You guys, seriously, being salt that Jesus is referring to, you are bringing flavor to the world. You should be making the world thirsty for who? Jesus, right? But also, you're preserving it. Because you know what? This world is decaying. Okay, we move on. Listen to what it says in 2 Corinthians 4. or 14 through 16. He says, "But thanks be to God, who in Christ always leads us in a triumphal procession, and through us spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of him everywhere. For we are the aroma of Christ to God among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To one a fragrance from death to death, to the other a fragrance from life to life. Who is sufficient for these things?" Your life is either bringing life to others, like that aroma of Jesus, or it's bringing death. So we are salt, we are light. The Bible says we're like an aroma, but again, it's going to be like how God is coming through us and what we are doing and how we are living. Check this out. Next slide. Okay, so this picture up here, I'm going to explain this to you real quick. All right, that's me. You didn't know. All right, so there's me. This is my friend. Okay, he was trying to start a ministry at a skate park. So he called me up about a month and a half ago. He's like, "Hey, Jake, I want to start like going to skate parks and reaching kids about Jesus." I said, "Oh, okay, cool. Let's go." So we looked up. I Googled one. I'm like, "Oh, cool. Here's one by my house. I don't have to drive far. Let's go." So we went there. After being there for a little while, we didn't find anybody to talk to right away. I was kind of getting discouraged. It started to get dark. And I'm like, "Oh man, there's nobody here. Lord, why are we here?" As I'm kind of getting ready to give up, I hear a bunch of people talking behind me. I look up on the half pipe, this whole group of teenagers. So I go to my friend Lamar. Remember, this is the only person I know here, right? So I go to him, I said, "Hey bro," I said, "how about we go and talk to all these people at once about Jesus and just address him?" He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Okay. And he's never really done stuff like that before, but he was willing to do it. I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I had him, there was a few other kids on the other side of the park. I had them gather their friends. I said, "Hey guys, can we just talk to you for a few minutes?" "Yeah, okay, that's cool." About 20 minutes later, every one of those kids is worth sharing them about Jesus and how they can know him. And if they die, would they go to heaven? And how can you know? And is the Bible true? They started asking questions. Okay, so we were salt to them. They got thirsty. They were hungry. Now, I've been going there ever since then, so it's been a month and like 3 weeks now. And I'm talking to teenagers there every time, people I don't know. They took a selfie with us like 20 minutes after being there because they were so responsive. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. Because I asked them. I said, "Has anybody ever told you this before? Has anybody ever shared with you who Jesus is? Has anybody ever told you how you can know God?" You know what their answer was? Want to tell me? No. No, nobody. That's a travesty. That's a tragedy. My goodness, with just us here in this room, we could turn the world upside down for Jesus Christ. If we were being salt and light. Do you guys believe me? Yes. How do we know that? Well, look at the disciples. The apostles, 12, what did it say about them? They did what? They turned the world upside down. Because they were being salt. And they were being light. And after just 20 minutes of talking to these kids, now they're like all following me on Instagram. It's crazy. I wanted to connect with them, and I said, "Hey, are you guys on Facebook?" "No, we're on Instagram." I said, "Oh, okay, well, here's my Instagram." So the one kid grabs my phone, and they just pass it around. And they're all like, "Oh, okay." Why? Because they're not seeing it, guys. They're not seeing it. We can change that. We can change that. You can change that. The question really is, do you want to? Do you want to? All right, real quick. Next slide. Finish this up. He says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Is that true? City's up on a hill, are you going to see it? Of course. He says, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand. It gives light to the whole house. Again, who's the light of the world? You are. And why are you the light? Because who's in you? Jesus. We're kind of like the moon, okay? We get our light from the sun. We get our light from Jesus. So I brought with me, I don't normally carry a flashlight. But I brought one with me, and I could probably blind you if you don't pull it. Yeah, it's kind of bright, okay? I mean, it's light in here, but it still shines. See, this is what we are. This is you. This is me. Powered by Jesus. Doesn't run out. Batteries don't go dead on Jesus, right? But here's what he's saying. If it's dark and I need a flashlight, am I going to cover it up? Am I going to do that? That'd be kind of stupid, right? What are we doing? You're the light of the world. You're supposed to shine. What are you doing? You got all the power. I mean, you can kind of see that light a little bit, but is that going to do much good? Probably not. You're the light of the world. You need to shine. That's what Jesus says. That's not me, that's Jesus. And if you will do it, just like I talked to those kids, I'm nothing special. I just said, okay, Jesus, you want me to shine? You want to be salt? Let's do it. And you know what? When you see God respond, and you see kids touched, oh man, that's awesome. It'll like light you up. If you need like more fire for God in your heart, go tell someone about Jesus. It'll light you up. I'm not saying everybody's going to listen. They're not. But you know what? More will listen than will not listen. And people are normally more willing to listen than you're willing to tell them. That's been my experience for 30 years. Or am I being a light? How do you know? How do you know if you're being a light? Be honest with yourself. Here's another way you can ask. You can find out. What if I asked your best friend, hey, is so-and-so, are they a light for Jesus? What would they say? Your best friend knows you, right? If I said, hey, is she a light for Jesus? Is he a light for Jesus? Tell me the truth. What would they say? All right, next slide. What does Jesus say? In the same way, let your light shine before others. They may see your good works. Give glory to your Father in heaven. It's not about you looking special. But guys, that's what we're created for. You and I exist for one reason. One reason. This is what I tell people, even on the streets. You were created for one reason. To glorify God. That's it. That's why you exist. My life should reflect who Jesus is. My character, what I do, what I say, how I act. Should be like Jesus. Is anybody here perfect? Raise your hand. We got one in the back. Perfect person. Show us how it's done. And none of us are. And that's why there's the grace of God that we depend on. Because we're accountable for what we do, how we live. And here's the thing, guys. All of you know how to shine. You really do. Because I see you guys. Many of you will stand and shine for everything that's not Jesus. We can stand and shine for our rights or politics, about me. We can sports, music, Hollywood stars. We will shine. We'll put them up on pedestals. We'll put spotlights on them. That we wouldn't do that for Jesus. That's not right. That's idolatry. We know how to shine. It's in us to want to glorify something. It's in you. Because God put it there. But He's giving you the choice. What are you going to glorify? What are you going to give to? Is it going to be Him? Or something that's less than, which is everything else? Boyfriend, girlfriend, oh yeah, we'll shine for them. Am I shining for Jesus? So how do we shine for God? Well, first of all, got to get out of here, right? Just a couple practical things as we wrap this up. We got to be countercultural. Quit blending in. Quit looking like a chameleon. Because when you do that, all that's doing is making corrupt salt. It's good for nothing but to throw on the ground when you look like everyone else. You were created to stand out, to be different, not to be like everybody else. We become so like the world that there's no difference that they see in us. Another way that we shine is putting ourselves out there. We love people. Share with them. Make them think you're an angel, okay? You might just get that happening to you. People are going to, whoa, you're talking about the Lord? Wow, that's weird. Are you an angel? How else do we shine? We always point back to Jesus. Without him, we can do nothing. How else do we shine? What we say. What comes out of our mouth. What we watch. What we entertain ourselves with. Social media, how am I using that? Is it to glorify everything but Jesus? Out of the abundance of the heart, the Facebook speaks. Seriously. You can look on someone's Facebook and you can just see pretty much where they're at. And lastly, practical way is to be like Jesus. And what does it say about Jesus? It says that he would seek and he would look to save the lost. He's looking. It wasn't passing, well, we'll see what happens today. Whatever happens, happens. No. He's actually looking for those in need. He's looking for the lost. And that's the heart of God. That's the heart we should have. That we can be salt and light to a dying world. So I'm going to ask you today, how many of you would say, you know what? I need to be more salty. And how many of you would say, you know what? You can raise your hand, that's cool. You're just ahead of me, but I need to quit covering the light. I need to take the light out. And I need to shine because it's really, really not so much in here. But I need to shine. Here's what I'm going to ask you today then. If you know you want to be more salty, you want to be a brighter light. How many know that song, This Little Light of Mine? Oh, I'm going to let it shine. I wouldn't sing it to you because my voice is not made for singing. But I don't know if I agree with those lyrics. Because I don't know if it's a little light. How about this great, big, gigantic light that lives in me? I'm not gonna allow it not to shine. This great, big, gigantic light, let it shine for all the world to see, because you are the light of the world. I am the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. I am the salt of the earth. If we're not doing it, you know what? Nobody is. So I'm going to ask you, if you feel like you need to be more salty, or you need to shine brighter, with your eyes wide open, I want you just to raise your hand. If you're saying, I need to be more salt, I need to be more light, I want you to be honest. This is what you want. Not because somebody else is doing it, because you realize that's what I need. I need to shine brighter. I need to be really the salt of the earth. Because I know there's people all around me. And you can think of people right now that really, really need you. Because God has placed you there. Nothing's a coincidence. All right, next step. Could you guys come up and can we get a song? Okay. Well, these guys are playing a song. Everybody who raised your hands, take that next step. I'd like you to come up here. I want to pray for you. Some of the teachers, feel free to come up. I think I talked to a few of you. And we're going to pray for you, and we're going to ask God to give you boldness that you can shine, that you can stand out, that you can be different and not care, that the fear of what anyone says will be totally gone, so you can be obedient to Jesus and be salt and be light. So those of you who raised your hands, because I saw them, okay, I want you to come on up right now. Come on up right now. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's not touch you. Everyone, be awesome. That's awesome. Awesome, guys. Good deal. Let's pray. And anybody else that's sitting here, anytime you guys can come up and join us. All right. Yes. We're just going to start praying, so teachers, just lay a hand on me. Start praying, and we ask them if there's something specific. We'll just start praying. That's